Coming up, a rare interview with a rocker who passed away a few years back about his biggest hit. It was a really important song from 1986 because it brought a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer out of retirement by interpolating the chorus of her 1963 hit into a new rock song altogether, while introducing it to a whole new generation, while at the same time helping this New York rocker make a huge comeback. The interview and the amazing story is next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you love the music of the rock and roll era, you're going to want to explore this channel. Subscribe below right now to get the stories of the great songs of the decades from the legends. Now, if you're a bona fide music junkie, take a look at our new merch at professorofrock.com. If you click right up here where I'm pointing, that will take you there. Also, for even more content, you can check out our Patreon link. That's above as well. Now, Eddie Money, the Money Man, he was a true rock and roller. He started following a rich family heritage to become a cop, but he heard that big beat sound on his way to joining New York's finest and became one of New York's finest in rock and pop. You know, if you used baseball as an analogy for rock and roll, in New York terms, Eddie Money, he was like the Thurman Munson of music. With over 40 years of service on the rock stage, his swagger, his passion, they were apparent night after night after night. He passed away a few years back and he's been sorely missed. I was so fortunate to get to sit down with him for a couple of hours some time ago, and amongst other things, talk about his biggest hit, the timeless 1986 classic, Take Me Home Tonight. Take me home tonight. I don't wanna let you go. With the incomparable Ronnie Spector singing the chorus of her 1963 number 2 hit, Be My Baby, right after Eddie rips out, just like Ronnie sang. Take Me Home Tonight was written by Mike Leeson and Peter Vell. Of course, the track also gave credit to Jeff Barry, Ellie Greenwich, and Phil Spector for using the chorus of Be My Baby. Be My Baby is one of the most influential songs in the history of recorded music, with its wall of sound production. I mean, it knocked Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys sideways silly. It inspired him to create Don't Worry Baby. Don't worry, baby. Don't worry, baby. It inspired the boss, Bruce Springsteen, when he was working on the production of Born to Run. It inspired Billy Joel, his track, Say Goodbye to Hollywood. Say goodbye, my baby. Which coincidentally, Ronnie Spector cut with the E Street Band. Actually, Eddie mentions Billy Joel in this interview as they ran in the same circles in New York. When Take Me Home Tonight blasted up the charts, it gave Eddie Money an enormous comeback. After blazing onto the scene in the late 1970s with his first 2 hits, Baby Hold On, and 2 Tickets to Paradise. I've got 2 tickets to paradise, won't you? He told me about his rise in the interview, but as he made his way through the charts with those first few hits and then had another big hit with Think I'm in Love in '82, it was played on MTV a lot with a great video. That would prove to be his last top 40 hit for years. His 1983 album, Where's the Party? It wasn't a huge seller. It stalled at number 67 on the album chart after 3 consecutive top 40 showings on the charts. He had 5 consecutive stiffs on the charts after I Think I'm in Love. With Take Me Home Tonight, though, not only did Eddie start his big comeback, but it became the biggest hit song of his entire career. When it comes to the Money Man, for me, it's really personal. Eddie Money means a lot to me. In 1986, I was 10 years old, and that late summer and fall, Take Me Home Tonight and Eddie's album, Can't Hold Back, it was the surefire soundtrack of that time for me. My dad bought the album the day it was released, and the moment he popped the tape into the tape deck in his Ford pickup, I'd venture to say that the cassette wasn't ejected for a good 2 months after. I knew every song by heart. You know, we both singing these songs at the top of our lungs. I remember we'd stop at this really cool little gas station by our house. It was called B&J's Market, had a lot of comic books, Garbage Pail Kids. I got to pick out a pop. I always got this cream soda that the label looked like it was a beer. I always had some loose change burning a hole in my pocket in those days. So I buy these little boxes of cheap candy like Red Hots, Alexander the Grape, Lemonheads, Johnny Appleseeds. I also, like I said, bought loads of Garbage Pail Kids. I bought Mad Magazine, comic books, Spider-Ham. That was a great summer and fall. There are just certain albums that are released in your childhood where you remember every single song by heart. It's different for all of us. Can't Hold Back was one of those albums for me. I mean, songs like I Want to Go Back. Endless Nights. One Love. And of course, Take Me Home Tonight. I mean, what a rock and roll education I received at that time in my life. It was, you know, my introduction to the Brill Building, to the Ronettes, to the 60s. I mean, I'd heard music before that, but I was listening to the American Top 40 Countdown with Casey Kasem, and he'd tell his stories, and my dad would tell his stories on top of that, dig up his old 45s and records, and he'd tell me about the Ronettes and the Beach Boys and the Beatles and all that music that came before that inspired Eddie and his music. It was the beginning of rock and roll urban legends that I still remember today. I mean, my dad would pass on rock myths about Eddie Money, that he was a cop, and then he decided to be a rocker all of a sudden, which is not true. He also heard that Eddie was married to Ronnie Spector, also not true. I found out it was hearsay or rumor, but it motivated me to track down the stories behind the songs. It started my love of that. That's exactly where it started for me. Really, that little cassette tape that my dad bought at a drugstore in our little town was my window to the world. More importantly, it's a bond I share with my dad that I'll treasure forever. And I have to tell you that I take a piece of that in every interview that I do. And that's the power of Eddie's music, whether it's the possibilities imagined in 2 Tickets to Paradise, or the aching plea of Baby Hold On, or the straight ahead rock of Walk on Water, or the optimistic dreaming of I Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star from his first album. Now, what follows is me getting the real story of Eddie Money the Cop, the story of Take Me Home Tonight and I Want to Go Back. I feel these songs are magic. They're time capsules that, when played, take us back to life's sweetest memories. Like driving around a small town with your father, and every time I hear Eddie's music, I want to go back and do it all over. For you, it's going to be a different songs, different artists, but Eddie Money passed away on September 13, 2019, almost 1 month to the day after my dad. They're about the same age. When I interviewed Eddie, it was pretty special as I got to relay all of this to him, how his music created a father and son bond that lasted for so long. Actually, Eddie wrote a special note to my dad as I had him autograph the exact copy of the cassette that my dad wore out so long ago. I remember just a few months ago, I was in the grocery store with my boys, and I Want to Go Back. It came on over the speakers overhead. About 20 seconds later, I was just bawling my eyes out. I miss my dad every single day, and the music reminds me. I'm so grateful that I have the music to remember. So let's get into the interview. And I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. They help to make our mission of keeping the music alive possible. At Zenni.com, you can choose from their latest frames, all styles, all colors, and you can add features like, you'll definitely want to add blue blocks with, they protect your eyes from digital blue light. Go to Zenni.com today. Here's Eddie with the story. I want to start out and go back to the very beginning. What was it for you that kicked open the door to your mind and made you want to pursue music? Do you remember the moment?
Well, actually, I went to, I grew up listening to Chiffon, She's So Fine.
He's so fine.
And the Four Tops, and even before the Beatles. I mean, you know, rock and roll radio was alive, WMMS in New York. So I grew up with a lot of really great rock and roll. And I was always singing it. You know, when I was a kid, I was singing songs like, you know, I want Lenny Welch, You Never Really Leave My Happy Home, or, you know, If You Want to Be Happy for the Rest of Your Life, Gary U.S. Bonds. I mean, it was such great music on the radio. And I just always had it in my blood. I was always a singer, you know. And then when I started high school, my dad was a cop. My mother worked at a bank. There was 5 kids. We didn't have a lot of money. So I had to be the lead singer because I didn't have any money for drums or guitars or anything like that. So I automatically knew that I was the lead singer.
Well, you were going to the police academy and you were singing in rock and roll bands at night. Take us back to that time.
Well, you know, I went on the police department. My brother was in Vietnam at the time. My mother was going crazy. And I was going to college for a while, but I wasn't really into the college thing. And I joined the police department. Great bunch of guys, but I wasn't really into being a cop, you know. It was very regimental. And I didn't really want to wear a uniform for 20 years of my life. I said I should have went to the Marine Corps like my brother and got it over with. It was a little too military for me. And the band had moved out to California. My rock and roll band in high school, the Grapes of Wrath. So I just, you know, I packed my bags up, quit the police department, and moved out to California. And that band didn't last, and I went up to San Francisco and started by myself all over again.
And you were recognized for your talents by a certain Bill Graham, one of the great legends.
Bill Graham was a great guy, you know.
Tell me that story. Take us back to that.
Well, I remember Bill Graham. I mean, the first time I actually saw Led Zeppelin, they did 2 nights in San Francisco. They opened up a group called Country Joe and the Fish. And, you know, Bill Graham used to have everybody there from Heart to Queen to everybody in the world played at Wonderland. I saw Jimi Hendrix there played twice. It was an amazing play. And he turned out to be a great guy. And then I wound up getting a record deal for him because he wanted to do something for the people that worked for him in the office. So he started his own label, and I was distributed at Columbia. And I was the first artist, you know.
A quote that I remember reading that he said, Eddie Money's got it all. He's got the voice, he writes, he's a natural performer. And that has to make
it was very nice of him to say that. But then again, he was making 20% for the people in the office. No, Bill was a great guy. You actually thought he actually walked out of Russia. He was a Russian Jew with 500 kids, and 250 of them died on the way to Paris.
Jeez.
And his sister was in Auschwitz. She still had the tattoos on her arms. You know, he had a very tough childhood. Then he moved to New York, and he turned out to be a fantastic rock and roll promoter. And a great manager, you know.
I want to go in depth on this record because this is one of my favorite records. I know every song. I mean, I told you how I was driving around in the truck with my dad, and I remember seeing the video on MTV, Take Me Home Tonight.
Right, yeah, that was a big video.
Great video. Thank you. One of the great music videos in MTV history.
I would have to say so. And you know what? They still play the song, Everybody Goes Home at Night. The last call, all the clubs all over America, they play Take Me Home Tonight, which is amazing. It's real, you know.
Well, for my generation,
to be the last song of the night to this day is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, for my generation, I mean, it was literally our introduction to Ronnie and the Ronettes.
Right,
I mean,
sure.
When I was listening to my dad say, "You hear this? Be My Little Baby." That's a song. Be My Baby.
Did he play it for you?
And and he played it for me. And that's how I mean, that taught me rock and roll.
It's a better song than Take Me Home Tonight, by the way. It really is. The night we met, I knew I needed you so.
Well, you know, that
it's better than I Feel the Hunger. It's a hunger. I mean, it's a better tune. I said, we should get Ronnie Spector to do this. I looked around and I got called 1,000 people. I finally got a number from somebody. I called her up and she recognized my voice because of 2 Tickets to Paradise. And she was clinking and clanking. I said, Ronnie, what are you doing? Ronnie, she said, what's up? She said, I'm sorry, Eddie, I'm doing the dishes. I got a couple of kids now, I'm married. I said, whoa. But she got the bug back and she came out and did that video with all the smoke and the garage door coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And she got that rock and roll bug back, and then she started going back on the road again. And she sings her ass off. She's out there singing all the time.
Well, she thanked you at your induction in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I couldn't believe that.
And Eddie Money, take me home tonight. I don't want to let you go.
Well, she's always been a sweetheart. She knew the Beatles really well, too, you know, John Lennon and, you know, she's got
to saying they snuck those guys out.
Yeah, when they were staying at the Plaza and they couldn't get any rest or relaxation because the press and everything, she snuck them over to Brooklyn for a couple of days, and they had a wonderful time.
The video, I got to tell you this. When I would see the video as a kid, that's what made me want to grow out my hair.
Right,
you know, because you had the long hair in there, and I wanted to learn how to play the saxophone because you have that moment in there where you're picking up the saxophone.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
And that, along with, like I said, along with Baker Street and Clarence Clemens and the East Street Band, and those are the three moments that for our generation were like, what, man, we got to learn how to play the saxophone.
Yeah, saxons are a lot of fun. I just love playing the horn. I got 7 horns, my 7 saxophones. My wife was so pissed off. Why do you spend so much money on all those horns? You've only got one mouth.
Nominated for a Grammy and
Right.
should have won, man.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Well, also an interesting fact is that Scott Litt mixed the song.
Right.
And he did all those produced all those REM albums, Automatic for the People,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Out of Time.
He did a great job
that.
on it too, yeah. I never met the guy and I thought he overcharged me, but he did a good job on the track, you know.
Well, also the covers. I mean, it's been covered by Hinder and Glee. Was that pretty cool?
Yeah, it was really cool. But I mean, when Hinder covered it, was really amazing. They're from Oklahoma City, I think. And they were big Eddie Money fans. And they came out and I got in one of their videos. And they were really nice kids.
Well, and then of course the movie came out that they named
Take
the
Me Home
movie.
Tonight. And that one actor I thought was a genius, the fat kid.
And Anna Faris and Chris Pratt, that's where they met, man. Did
Right.
you know that? That's where
No.
they met and they got married and they got kids. Chris Pratt's the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World. He's like one of the biggest box office stars.
Oh, come on, yeah.
But they met during that movie. It was named after your song and,
No
they're
kidding.
married, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Isn't
How
that
about
great?
that? No.
I Want to Go Back, another
Right back in, yeah.
phenomenal song. It's funny because a lot of people don't realize that Billy Satellite was the first one to cut the song. And
Right.
then Gregor Oli from
cut it
A
also,
Freaking
yeah,
Journey
yeah,
did
right.
it. But the difference is, you go back and listen to those songs, your version's like 10 times better than those. And the
Right.
reason is because of vocal, man. You attack that song,
Yeah, I
man,
love
and
it.
it really...
Well, Monty Byron's a good buddy of mine from Bakersfield. We're still very good friends, and I've always loved the song.
on the saxophone part is
Oh, the
also the
saxophone's
huge
just
difference.
fantastic. It was
Another
just
great video. That,
I mean, hanging out on Friday night, the first slow dance, hoping that I get it right.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I grew up.
Hoping that I get it right.
You know, when I grew up, the closest you ever got to a chick was at that high school dance, without the father looking over your shoulder, I grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
Nobody got laid.
That a lonely heart was never sure.
and you think about the memories that you had. Like I think about when my dad
Sure,
and I driving
yeah.
around the
It's
truck,
just
and I want to go back to those
I want to
times.
go back and do it all over again, but you can't
You know?
go back, I know.
Do it all over, but I can't go back, I know.
Another Kevin James, man, Grown Ups too.
He loves that tune. He loves I'll Get By. He knows every lyric to I'll Get By.
Oh, such a great song.
Somehow I'll get by.
Having somebody like Kevin James would be a big Eddie Money fan. Well, Chubby Checkers is a big Eddie Money fan. Wow, these are people I really love. Or Neil Young calling me by my first name. Things like that. Or Ringo Starr, going to meetings with Ringo Starr. What a great guy. There's certain people that you meet that you really, really great people. Well, Loverboy, Mike Reno, great guy,
Well, see, and what I love is you still got that passion, man. After 40 years, you still almost
Well, I
have
got
to
5
pinch
kids. I'll do anything to get out of the house.
Man, well, I got to tell you, man, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Adam. I hope people don't fall asleep to this interview because I wasn't that exciting, but it was great talking to you, Adam.
No, it was.
I appreciate all you could. Oh, you got a wedding ring on, huh?
Yeah.
Smallest handcuff in the world. Smallest handcuff in the world.
No, I got it. I love my wife as much as you love yours.
Yeah,
man.
you gotta
Great-
love your wife.
Great lady. The last thing that Eddie Money said to me as I was leaving the interview, I remember he said, tell your old man thank you for introducing you to my music. And of course I did tell my dad about that. But thinking back on that moment right now, I mean, it's come full circle. My dad, Eddie's music, that summer and fall that sparked me wanting to know every story of every song, being able to connect all that. It's such a blessing. Thank you so much, Eddie. Leave us a comment about this Eddie Money song, this wonderful 80s album. If you enjoyed this video, we do invite you to subscribe below right now so you never miss our daily dose of rock and pop history. Make sure to check out our new merch at professorofrock.com and check out our Patreon page. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, records and the truth, my friends. See you soon.